Hello everybody, Navster here. Thanks for checking out this video today. I'm going to discuss my experience with footwear on long trails. If you like this topic and you want to hear some more gear reviews, please subscribe and turn on those notifications so you'll be informed about when the new videos come out. So on the topic of footwear, there's a lot of discussion online about footwear, zero drop, no zero drop, waterproof, not waterproof, boots, shoes, etc. All of those are valid discussions. Ultimately what works for you is going to be your best footwear. A lot of that discussion also focuses around the Altra line of shoes, the Lone Peaks, the Tempe's, others that they may have. So I'm going to give you a little bit of information on a shoe that is not a Lone Peak and kind of run you through why I settled on what I did, and maybe that'll be something that helps you out. So before I started the Appalachian Trail, I had this pair of Salomons. These are X Ultras. They are waterproof. They're Gore-Tex boots. I didn't have them for too long before I started the AT. I actually bought them as my training boot, if you will. Pretty good boots, very comfortable. I love these boots. So I started the AT with this. Before I started though, I did go to the store, your standard REI or other shoe store. I tried on some of the Ultras. To me, compared to the Salomon, they were not as comfortable. The cushioning on the bottom was a lot less than what existed on the Salomon. I felt like my feet were touching the ground, and a lot of people like that. I didn't like that feeling compared to the Salomons. They also didn't feel as though they were wide enough in the toe box. I have reasonably wide feet, and so they felt a little compressed in the toe box. I know some of their other, I was trying on the Lone Peak, but I think some of their other lines of shoes are a little wider and fit better for wide foot individuals. So I stuck with the Salomon. Started the AT. As I approached the North Carolina line, I realized that I have tender feet on the bottom. Not from a blister perspective, but the bottom of my feet felt like they were bruised almost constantly in this boot. So we got into North Carolina, I went into Franklin, and I went to the Outdoor 76 store, which is a great store that got a lot of good gear and good information there, and they'll help you out. They'll listen to you. They will also talk to you a lot, but they will listen to you and they'll get you a shoe or a boot that kind of fits your needs. As I talked to them about my foot being bruised on the bottom, what they suggested to me was this clown shoe. No, actually, the version that I got originally looked even more clown shoe like than this one. It's a Hoka Tor Ultra High. So it comes in 3 different versions: ultra high, mid high, and then there's a low version. But as you can see, the cushion on the bottom is much larger than the cushion on the Salomon, which is what I was looking for since my feet were bruised. It is waterproof. The Salomons were Gore-Tex waterproof. This Hoka is event technology, so it's a little different than the Gore-Tex. My experience between the two is the Gore-Tex waterproof system keeps your feet drier longer, but it does take a long time to dry out after it gets wet, because it does get wet. The event, in my opinion, while it does keep your feet dry, your feet end up getting wet sooner than they do in the Gore-Tex. But the event system seems to dry out faster for me than the Gore-Tex did. So that might be a combination of kind of boot materials and other things, but generally speaking, that was my experience with the 2 different waterproof technologies. So these fit very well for me when I try them on. One neat thing about them is the laces go all the way down to the toe, so depending on how tight or loose you need your toe box, you can adjust that accordingly instead of your laces just stopping kind of midway down. So that was also nice. These are the ones that I finished the AT with. So I bought a pair in Franklin, North Carolina at, let's say, mile 100. They lasted 1,000 miles, and then in Pennsylvania, right before the Battle Rock started, I bought my second pair, which is this pair here, and these lasted me all the way to Katahdin. If you compare this to other boots or shoes that are on the trail, I think they did pretty good. There's a little, seam here has kind of come loose. There's your standard kind of toe issue from kicking a lot of rock, but the leather has held up good. The other synthetic materials have held up pretty well. The sole on this shoe was the Vibram sole. Excellent grip and traction, even on wet rocks in New Hampshire and Maine and so on, even when it got down to the point where it's kind of worn like this. So I was very impressed with that. Now, one thing I did for these Hokas is, this is the insole that came with it. As you can see, it's not a whole lot there as far as support goes and durability. there's no real arch support. Your foot's going to press that down pretty much immediately. Superfeet is a very common insole out on the trail. If you listen to other hikers, most of the time they're going to suggest something to do with Ultras or Superfeet to kind of cure you of your foot ailments, which is fine, and that works for a lot of people. For me, I tried Superfeet. That was the first insole that I went to after buying the Hokas. They were a little extreme for me, so I ended up getting these soles, SOLE. This is their thin model, so that it doesn't take up a lot of the footbed and press your foot up to the, on the inside of the boot. They're made of cork, so they kind of form to your foot a little bit, but they're still sturdy. You can't really bend them. The only negative in these, in my opinion, is that when the cork stays wet, it begins to smell. So it's a different smell than your normal foot smell or your body odor that you're going to have. But even though I kept my Hokas for 1,000 miles, each pair 1,000 miles, I replaced the insoles every 500 miles, and that worked pretty well for me. So for the PCT, what I'm doing is I don't want to wear a big boot like this when I start in the desert. It's waterproof. My foot would be hot. Being black would be even hotter. So what I've done, instead of knowing that the Hoka fits my foot well, I found the Hoka version, if you will, of a trail runner that fits my foot the same way or as closely to the same way as the Hoka Tors. And so what I settled on is the Hoka Stinson ATR4. And you can see the sole is as thick or thicker as the Tor. It is not waterproof, so it's a mesh on the side here, so that should let my feet air out and it should dry more quickly. And as you can see, hopefully, I do have a sole insole in these, just like I did on the Tor boots. So what I hope will happen is that this Hoka will last me the 700 miles of the desert. If I have to replace an insole, I will. But as far as, sole and upper, I hope that will last those 700 miles. We're going to give it a shot and see. When I have my winter gear, if you will, my non-desert gear shipped to me in Kennedy Meadows, I will also have these Tor boots shipped to me at Kennedy Meadows. So I've pre-purchased these. A lot of people, and I agree with this, say, don't pre-purchase your boots before you start a long trail because your feet change size and, you don't really know what you need. I agree with that 100%. I did not know what I needed, obviously, which is why I got rid of the Salomons. But I know I like this. I know what my feet do on long trails, and I know this fits and provides my feet the support they need. So I'm going to use this right now. It's my plan. I'm going to use this when I get to the Sierra, and if that lasts me another 1,000 miles, after that, then I'll see what to do for the last 1,000 miles or so. Maybe another pair of these, maybe another pair of the low Stinsons. One item related to tying your shoe or your boot is, you may have seen or heard where you can tie your laces in such a way that it pulls your foot back into the footbed of the shoe. Actually, I did this one in that fashion. So tied this way, when you put your foot in and tighten this up, your foot's going to be pulled back to the back of your shoe. A lot of trail runners do that to kind of help their foot be seated correctly in the heel of the shoe. So when I bought my original Hoka Tors, the guy at Outdoor 76 did that method of tying on my boot. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I had never done it before. This is wonderful, something new, a new process to kind of help my foot be more comfortable and safe. What I didn't realize is that with a boot, and in particular this fairly rigid boot here, up here it's pretty soft, but down here it's not. Because my foot was so far back in the footbed, as I was walking up and down the mountains, this pressed into my Achilles. So it took me a little bit to realize it. I was blaming the boot initially, like in that first week that I had these boots. It was not the boot that was causing the problem. That was causing my Achilles to swell and be sore. It was actually the way the boot was tied. I changed that lace pattern, tied them the normal way that I've always tied my shoes and boots, and my Achilles problems went away. So I say that just to be aware, if you're not experienced like I was not in different methods for tying your boot or different types of boots and how they fit and wear, just be aware of that. And you will learn as you go. You should try and experiment things and see how they work best for you. So hopefully this information has been beneficial for you. It's just to give you a little bit of idea again of options that are out there other than Ultras, and some things to think about possibly when you're trying to select a pair of shoes or boots. If this is information that's beneficial to you, be sure to subscribe. There should be a subscribe button, or you can use the link down below in the description section. And if you sign up for notifications, you'll be notified as I release future gear videos. So thanks again for joining, and I'll talk to you later. See you out there.